Oh, hello everyone, Ito here and welcome back to another week of this Minecraft series. And this week we are going to be working over our time system. We need to learn how to count items, how to transform them into redstone, how to use logic and counting and redstone power and everything. So I don't know how that's going to go, but if you are seeing this, it's because at least 1 week has passed, so let's go, jump on it. But before we check on the progress, I need to tell you something, because this week I came with a totally blank mind, pretty much like this. I just came here and I got not a single clue on what we are going to work with here. I kind of got a rough idea on what I want to achieve, but I don't even know if it was possible, and up to some point I even believed that this actually was going to be my doom, because it seemed like it was going to be impossible. So over the Monday we kind of planned loudly, we had a little bit of more of fun and which are kind of a moment, but in terms of progress we didn't did too much. I just kind of reached a point where I thought like, oh, maybe my whole project is actually doomed because this is not possible, you know, counting items, convert them into redstone and make it in a way that is going to be everything fit here seems like, up to that point, a little bit of an impossible task. So with that in mind, I took a fresh refresh outside of the game. I played some League again, so I'm ranking because, you know, it's coming world, so that's another thing. But then the also thing, it helped me to reset my mind. We went on the Wednesday stream and on the Fridays and we start planning more and doing more stuff, and actually we completed it. So this time I got succeed and I didn't went balding, but I was really close, especially after the Monday stream. So let me do now a quick recap on what's happening here, and hopefully you can understand this whole system and why I went almost crazy. But before we check on the progress, I need to tell you something, because this week I came with a totally blank mind, pretty much like this. I just came here and I got not a single clue on what we are going to work with here. I kind of got a rough idea on what I want to achieve, but I don't even know if it was possible, and up to some point I even believed that this actually was going to be my doom, because it seemed like it was going to be impossible. So over the Monday we kind of planned loudly, we had a little bit of more of fun and which are kind of a moment, but in terms of progress we didn't did too much. I just kind of reached a point where I thought like, oh, maybe my whole project is actually doomed because this is not possible, you know, counting items, convert them into redstone and make it in a way that is going to be everything fit here seems like, up to that point, a little bit of an impossible task. So with that in mind, I took a fresh refresh outside of the game. I played some League again, so I'm ranking because, you know, it's coming world, so that's another thing. But then the also thing, it helped me to reset my mind. We went on the Wednesday stream and on the Fridays and we start planning more and doing more stuff, and actually we completed it. So this time I got succeed and I didn't went balding, but I was really close, especially after the Monday stream. So let me do now a quick recap on what's happening here, and hopefully you can understand this whole system and why I went almost crazy. And to make things even more complicated, this week I decided to change my modus operandi and take a different task. Instead of going for the harder or the most strenuous or boring task and the first start of the stream, I broke something. I just decided that I'm going to do something totally different, and actually what I was going to do, I messed things up a little bit, but it's fine. I was going to go for the easiest task, and I thought, okay, it's going to be cool, design a system that is going to randomize items, and then I realized, wait a moment, this is wrong. It's not how I usually roll. I usually start from the start of the system and go for the final part of the system, or worst case scenario, I go for start for the end, then I go for the kind of reaching the start and actually reach the project in the middle. That's how I do my projects. But in this case, I kind of started for the last but not the last part, so yeah, it was a mess. So let me explain. Over here we got a randomized system that is going to randomize in between a 0 time modifier and a 1 to 5, so that's essentially a 0, and this is a 1 to 5. And what we are counting here are actually the transfer rate of items over this vault array. So we got items here, where we got cobble and stone, both cobblestone and bolt stone that we are storing onto these vaults, and then we got this other buffer which is kind of at the draining part. And we are doing something similar like in the vault, where if you run out of time, you are screwed. So we are actually draining items, which think it's kind of a draining time. So with that in mind, this is the easy part, and then I realized, yeah, I want to have some type of randomized way to not drain on every single roll the same amount of time. So we devised that it's going to be cool to have this configuration. So we are going to have 5 different set of difficulties, and you can see like in the middle of them the differential is 5 items. So from 20 to 25 I can roll a 0, that means it's just 20, no modifiers. 25, that means I added 5. 15 to 20, 10 to 15. So no big deal there. And then for the levels 1 and 5, then we need to do a little bit of more shenanigans, but it's essentially kind of the same thing. So I decided to start with this because it seems simple, you know? But the problem is this is not the first input of the system, because my first input should be the flat value, the minimum amount of items that I'm going to have. I should have started kind of setting these numbers up instead of the one in the middle. So my goal is kind of trying to cap everything over here. And well, I decided to change things up and it messed me a lot. So that's why the week was a little bit complicated, and then I needed to do a lot of the work outside of the stream, but essentially I made it work, so it's not that big of a deal, hopefully right now. So yeah, what do we have here? Essentially it's a time system where we are going to read the pressing of a button when we are going to try to roll a random dice, which is going to be a randomizer in between 0 and 5, is, let's say in this case it's the 1, is going to open the funnels for 10 ticks, which is going to be enough. This is the ones that are going to open the funnels, and then depending if we are going to roll a free roll, a challenge, or a quest, it's kind of where it's going to be added. Right now I was testing there, so it's engaged on the quest mode. It's going to send a signal, and after that is drain, which is going to drain in this case only 1 item. It's also going to fire this next one, which is called the request. It's going to request extender time modifiers, and this is going to be based on the difficulty. So on this part we got the time modifier difficulty, which is based on pretty much this array, which is reading the difficulty selector, which is this case. In this case, this guy is on 5 right now because I was testing stuff and I just fixed the last part. So we read that only one of these signals goes by. That means it's going to request a new time extender, and then based on the different type of difficulties is the different type of items that I'm going to have, and this is what they call the flat value. So in this case the 4 second and 18 ticks are the flat value of 10. And in this case you can see the middle is 7 and 2, and the last one is 9 seconds and 2. So the last one from the 9 seconds are going to be the 20 item transfer. That's how I know I kind of for sure on every single roll you got a minimum value. And the idea behind this is on lower difficulties I don't want to make that many rolls for completing quests because it's just kind of a super simple to complete, but on level 5 of course the quests are going to be harder to complete, so you need to make more rolls, take more challenges and stuff like that. Okay, in case I didn't make myself really clear, what we are doing essentially is counting the items that we got here in these counters, you know, 100, which is represent the 100% of time, that means 100 items, and we are going to be draining time from the vault, which is your allowed time to keep making progress onto your quest or your challenges, kind of a way you are role-playing. If you run out of time, you need to resolve based on the amount of lamps that you had kind of previously light up. So the more lamps, the more successes you have, the better you are going to be having that resolve time. But time, when it's run out, it's forcing you to make a resolution. So essentially you want to drain time as slowly as possible, but that's going to be based on the difficulty, not based neither on your performance or anything else. So right now, time is just a measure to put more pressure onto the players, so yeah, be aware of that. And of course that means the more coins you can stack and stuff like this are going to be more important, but that's kind of the whole gist of it. So with that in mind, I'm going to make a simple explanation for the middle difficulties, which I believe are the easiest one to understand, the 2, 3, and 4. So we are going to have a minimum value, 20, 15, and 10, and in this case these values are going to allow you to understand, like for example, this is 20 and we got 100 items transferred. That means in average you are going to be having 5 rolls before depleting your time, while on difficulty 3 you are going to have kind of an average of 7, and on difficulty 4 you are going to have an average of 10. Then of course in the middle we got the item randomizer that we just talked right now, in between 0 to 5, and then of course this is going to be the max. I mean, since this is just kind of adding time, you are never going to be able to deplete faster than this, so this is also a minimum time that in this case, for example on difficulty 2, you are never going to have less than 4 rolls before completing something. Difficulty 3 is 20, and difficulty 4 is around 7. So that's kind of the whole gist of it. The idea for the randomizing part is like the players got a little bit of an idea of expectations on what to know how long the quest is going to be, so you get an idea on how pressure of time you are going to be or not, but also that means there is randomized a little bit, so you got some type of degree but not total control. So it's not fully randomized but really a more controlled one, and I like that because the more knowledge that the player has, the more meaningful choices you can make while playing. So hopefully that makes everything a little bit more kind of clear, because now we need to do the check on the two different systems, the difficulty 5 and the difficulty 1. Because the 5 can only go in between 10 to 12, so we needed to improvise something different, and the difficulty 5 is going to be with 15 numbers of difference from 20 to 35, so that's kind of the big thing over myself. So let's go with it right now. And with that good explanation apart, let's go for the difficulty 5, which in this case is going to be the numbers from 10 to 12. So we already know that we are going to have rolling a random number from 0 to 5, but of course we can't add 5 because 10 plus 5 is going to be 15, and we want a max of 12. So we needed to devise a system that is going to cap everything. So essentially, since we got 6 values here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that means a total of 6. We divided this kind of in 2 batches, 0, 1, and 2, and then 3, 4, and 5, which are going to mimic the 0, 1, and 2. So if you roll a 3 in this case, it's essentially like a 0 extra item drained. So if we do this, then we are going to trigger the same amount of items here, nothing changed on this side, which is just kind of the 10 flat value. You can see both of them are the same because level 4 and level 5 are the same essentially. But then we added this system here, which I think it's really cool. This is the modifier for the difficulty 5. Essentially, we got here, it's a piston system that is going to read the difficulty. So whenever we got the difficulty 5, these pistons are going to be up, allowing the signal to transfer to. But when this is not going to be difficulty 5, the pistons are going to be extended, pushing the block below, not allowing the signal to transfer, so in that way doesn't mean what we are going to roll. And of course we got the difficulty 5 here, the line for the 4, the line for the 3, and we are going to force a reset whenever we press the button. So essentially we are going to convert that signal into a pulse that we are going to extend, and then we got a specific amount of timers here. You can see that these are setting up pretty much similar on how we're doing there, which is 10 ticks per item. So this 5 seconds plus 18, it's actually the same amount of items that we got from the 0 line, which is this line here, which is just the 10 ticks delay, plus the line we got over here, which is 4 seconds and 18 ticks. So the only reason why this 4 and 18, while this one over here is 5 seconds, is because there is a little bit of a more delay where we need to match out the items, and that means that actually if we roll this, we are essentially just adding the perfect amount, but in different batches. So first, since we're rolling a 3, we add 3 on the system, and then we add the 7 extra because we are cutting the signal off. And then we do the same, but with a little bit of extra delay on both of them, which are 10 ticks for one more item. So this is essentially now 0, this is 1, this is 2. And that's how we are counting the whole max system. That way, whenever we roll this, we got a specific amount that we can have, forcing the game to drain only between 10 and 12. And yeah, everything is compact and super smart, so I feel like really good for coming with this solution. But the bigger part of the project and the one that took the whole week was the difficulty one, because as you can see here, we got items in between 20 to 35. So we already got from 0 to 5, but then we need to add from 0, because there's a chance that you get double 0, that means 20 as the minimum, up to 15. And at the first I started that I was going to account for this roll, but the problem with this is I got items converted into redstone signal, so I can read either that one or I can read every different item, but as you can see, space is kind of a problem, so I didn't want it to make another huge array of 16 stuff, and I was kind of testing with different type of randomizers and component, and we devised different strategies and ideas for getting kind of learn a little bit more of redstone and merging with stuff we create. So you're going to see different arrays of things that kind of essentially do all the same, but every single one is different than the other, so I'm super happy because I learned a lot over this. So for example, we are going to start when we got the difficulty 1 engaged. So actually, let me show you this. So we go here. Right now, this is manual, so we are changing difficulties. You can see it's going down one at a time. And if we engage the difficulty 1, we are going to engage this whole new line. So in this case, it's the same thing here. It's going to stop draining kind of at the normal amount of items, but then it's going to send another new signal, which is going to start kind of a new extender, which is all the way up to here in the redstone maze. So it's going to be there. It's going to be reading this, which is a quark item, which is called the redstone randomizer. And essentially what it do is receive a signal from this side, and it's kind of a 50-50 if it's going to send a signal on one batch and on the other. So there are multiple ways on how you can do this, but I decided to go with, quark, because sure, why not? And it's kind of a one block solution, so it's kind of a cool. So I got a binary system that could go as an extender here. So this guy, essentially what it's adding with this only 16 ticks, is just adding one extra item, and if it's go on the other line, it's just going kind of for the next batch. So essentially this is a binary like a 0 or a 1, and then we are going to use a dropper. The dropper can go from 0 to 9. So essentially, remember, we need to go from 0 to 10 because we already got the 0 to 5. So in this case, we are counting 0 to 1 and then 0 to 9. And 1 plus 9 is 10, so we are still checking on the numbers. So there we got the time extender, and again, another randomizer from that guy. If that guy goes, in this case, from the right, it's a binary of 0 because we don't care about it. But that means we don't add anything. That means we roll a 0 here, or it could be a 0 here and a 0 here, so no time added. But if it goes on this other line, then it's going to be on the dropper system. And as you can see, we got a time extender that is go essentially from 1 to 9 because we are going to read the redstone signal, and that's why we got the dispenser. With different field on shulker boxes, I consume 4 shulker boxes filled on cobblestone, by the way, so it was a lot, and every single of them give a different type of signal. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trigger this dispenser, and 6 ticks later I'm going to trigger this piston, which essentially is going to break the shulker. The shulker is going to field or kind of is going to be grabbed by these hoppers all the way over here, and then we use create for transferring vertically items, which is super compact, and that's how we got kind of a one pulse, in this case, signal that then is going to restart the new extender. It's going to read the new signal that then we need to recode. We added a new type of red coder here, so this is the other part of the extender, where we read the signal, which is a number, pretty much like that, and we convert that in time. So we send the signal over here. This is just a way to have only one of these at a time. So for example, if we roll a 1, it's going to be this line activated, but if we roll a 2, it's going to activate this piston, but also it's going to deactivate the other one. So that way we know that only one of these at a time is going to be active. So this is a super simple and cool way on compact everything with red coders and not using any type of redstone, torches, any more repeaters. So it's super cool and compact. I love it. And then we are going to send all of these signals over here on the top, where we got essentially the timers. So as you can see, this is the 1, and this is the 9. So the 1 is going to be 10 ticks, 20, 30, this. On the 40s, I encountered some weird things. I don't know if it's because of create or what, but I can't go 40 ticks. I need to go 30 and 8, and then we need to go 40, and then we go 50, and then we go, which is simply 60, and then we go 60 plus 10, which is 70, and then 4 seconds, which is 80. So this gives me the exact amount of items. That gives me 1 item, this gives me 9. And yeah, when we fill with that part, the whole system is done. So that means essentially we complete the whole loop. So when we are adding that in the difficulty 1, we add 20 plus this in between 0 and 5 plus in between 0 and 1 plus in between 0 and 9. So all of that math is something kind of a super cool, and essentially is what we did. And then of course the last thing that I added was this part, because I started with this project, then I realized I'm not so sure how I'm going to make this work, and then I realized, you know what, I'm already having some type of reader randomizers, so I just added colored wool, and I'm doing something similar like rolling the dice, but using droppers in this case. So I just send it down here, we read it with the smart observers, we send the signal with the smart observers, and we just activate everything. So whenever we press the button, actually this is what engages everything. So let me give you an example right now. So we got the stun counter incoming, we are on difficulty 1, and you are going to see it like we press the button, we got a signal, so we go down, I don't know exactly how much, but now it keeps coming down and down and down and down, and until every check is done. You can see it's even draining more because we rolled another one. So essentially our total counter is 74. And I love kind of in between these, every single module, it's like going up and down. So it's always kind of getting in your nerve, like, is it done? No, it's another part. So you never know if you are draining enough time or not. And I think that's kind of something cool. And yeah, in this case, you can know that we rolled at 26. So we drained 26 counter. And if we check for difficulty 1, 26 is between 20 and 35. So this whole week was this whole project. I'm feeling super happy with it. Hopefully you enjoyed also, because I didn't share that much of this project on the stream. As I said at the start, I needed to do a lot of this more kind of off the camera, because on the stream we goof around more, and I just kind of didn't have the best week in terms of progress, but essentially we made the whole system work, so I'm super proud of it. And yeah, if you're interested in to keep improving your redstone or learning more about Create or just goofing around, feel free to drop by on my Twitch, because this week we need to connect for the next step, which is going to be the progress. And the progress means we are going to start lighting lamps, and then maybe adding some type of tweaks on how these two systems interact, time and progress, and how we are going to make kind of the difference when you are going to roll for the cobalt or the stone. What that means, you are going to be into a challenge or into a quest. So there is still a lot more work, but it's going to be super fun. So hopefully you enjoyed, hopefully you learned something and it was understandable. And yeah, see you on the stream. Bye bye.